Okay, I'm going to make an important announcement right now. Remember I said I have some kind of participation credit that I'm going to take attendance, have some activity. The first one will be next Wednesday. Just to let you know, next Wednesday, I will take attendance. All right, we'll have some activity, hopefully have fun over here. All right, so that will be our first participation credit for this quarter, next Wednesday. All right, so I'm going to continue my lecture, come back to chapter 11. We're actually in transition from chapter 11 to chapter 12. At the end of this Monday, actually, we look at this code. We start look at how do you define the class and how do you actually be able to provide a constructor. So what we actually stop on Monday is this concept of whether you can actually explicitly specify your constructor such that it will match. So essentially, we have a bunch of constructor, and regarding which one we're going to match is actually depending on the function signature. I mean, the older generation of C language, the only function signature that's needed is the what they're called function name. But right now, it's actually not just match the function name. So you can see that you have the same name, but they're actually different function. It's just because the different parameter they are taking. So that's very common, happen in C++. So we're going to continue with that, but I want to just review a little bit. If you remember, at the end of the class, I actually show you 4 different functions, and the thing is that, in fact, all of them will work. All of them will work because this is something called implicit conversion, especially the number 3 is actually implicitly convert to a constructor that match that whatever signature it is. And the thing is that that can be avoided if you, when you declare the class, you say explicit on the constructor, which make the constructor, you cannot do this kind of implicit conversion. As you probably know that, what's this one? Sorry. As you can probably imagine, sometimes this kind of automatic implicit conversion sometimes cause issue, cause problem, because you don't intend to do that. You just forget to say something, but the computer actually you think the other way, and then doing the things anyway, and such that this kind of bug is usually pretty hard to find when you have a large piece of software, because it works sometime, it didn't work for other situation. Okay, so I want to left this with this is that when we have a different kind of constructor, different kind of style, the thing is I want to actually ask you, what do you think? Just compare if you know what you're doing, okay, just think about number 2 and number 3. I mean, which one do you think is actually a better approach, and why? Yes.
Well, we discussed number 3 won't work if you have
right. 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 But assuming I don't have that explicit, which way is that? Do you think is better?
Less code, the better.
What?
Less code, you're right.
Okay, we have a good appointment, a good opinion. Say the less code, the better. Okay, I respectfully disagree, but yes, I actually can write a code which is really kind of show off. It's really short, but nobody can really understand. If you look at how I actually construct pointer writing this kind of detail, it's actually pretty messy. So okay, so this is me as an instructor. There's no really definite answer one way or the other. But here is my yes, please. Okay, sure. Go ahead. Sorry about that. Yeah, go ahead. Right. Oh, that's even better, right? To make a more so my opinion response to all of you is that readability is actually very important. I mean, the reason we have object-oriented is actually always consider not just you reading the code. I mean, even for me, I mean, you guys are probably don't have the problem like I have right now. Right now, I forget things so quickly. I actually write a piece of code last week, and this morning I tried to look at it. I already forgot why I'm actually doing this. So imagine that you're actually writing code with a team of programmer, and the mindset is always, how do I actually help other people to actually better understand? So number one, I will try to avoid using those kind of language construct that's not that popular. I want to make sure that I use the most popular way to represent something which actually will boost my chance to make sure my code is more readable. So readability, understandability is actually very, very important as a software development to understand that. Okay, that's actually what I want to talk about the GPS. Okay, now I'm actually going to look at something which is a little bit more complicated based on the concept we already built called GPS. So I already shared the link, which is, let me pull it out again. Not this one. Sorry, you probably should got it from the canvas. If you don't have it, try to, you can pull in and take a look. So this is a directory. Let me actually make it a little bit bigger font. No, too big. Okay, so this is the link. The link is actually github.com/s_person_n_thing. So this is, you can see that GPS.h and GPS.cpp here is actually very similar to the one that you have. Let's just click it to take a look what it is. Okay, this is actually very similar to what you have. Do you see this? Yeah, actually make it. Yeah, no, okay. It's better, right? This way. All right. So you can see that the definition of GPSDD is actually very similar to what you have. With one small exception, I actually have a function called dump. I have a function called dump. Otherwise, they're the same. Okay, from last week. So one of the things I mentioned that about object-oriented programming is, number one, I want to do better software development. It's a software engineering approach to develop a large piece of code. And the second thing is, I want to use that to model the real world situation. So what I'm going to show you is, well, how can I actually accomplish both with this simple examples? I'm taking this called GPSDD, and then I'm actually going to show you that this concept will be reused in other contexts. So I make, in the sense, the reusability is a good software engineering practice, but when I reuse it, is actually showing that I make this piece of code have a very usefulness in actually describing a fairly complicated situation, okay, with a small number lines of code. Okay, so this is called GPSDD. So before I go on, I want to just show you what's dump. I want to introduce you the concept of dump in the object-oriented programming development. Is that sometimes the objects are pretty complicated. I mean, this object is probably okay. It's only two attributes I really care about, latitude and longitude. But you can imagine some of the object that might have a lot of content. So it's always useful to have this feature called dump for whoever, either a programmer, debugger, or the user of this class will be able to actually see the content about this particular object. So this is the idea of a function called dump. Later, we will extend the concept of dump to something really powerful later in your homework assignment. But let's actually look at how dump is implemented. So we go back to, wait a minute, where's my code? Here. Okay, so I go to gps.cpp. Okay, this is a code. You can see that it's the same. I include gps.h, and everything is just constructor, get latitude, set, latitude, and then this piece of code is just calculating. I just showed you last time. It just basically show you how to do that. And this particle is dumped, starting from line 120 is dumped. I mean, the way I implement dump at this stage is very simple. It's very simple. What I did is I basically just print out the content of every single attribute that I want to. Remember, I said, what's dump? Dump is actually for me to see the inside of the object as a debugger. I want to debug. I want to actually see what's in there. So that's actually very useful for me to actually be able to see that. There are other usage I'm not going to discuss right now, but other much more useful situation that I need this kind of dump. All right. Okay. So that's the 4 line. So you can see that this line is just basically the line number 1 on the line number 4 is just basically put a delimiter about where's the dump star, where's the dump end. Okay. And then I actually have this two attribute. Okay, any question about this? This is basically just very slight modification from the code you have seen on Monday. All right. All right, so now I'm actually going to introduce a different concept called person. Person.h. So let's look at this. Let me make it even larger. This is called class person. I'm actually going to do the class person, and in the class person, I have 5 attributes, and each of them has some kind of meaning. The first attribute is a string. It is, I actually just say the string is a social security number. A person should have a social security number, and a person should have a name. I mean, it's just I'm not talking about gender, I'm just assuming the case. You can actually say that the student ID number, that's fine. For UC Davis, that's okay too. So you have some kind of SSN, some kind of name, and then I actually use GPS to say, well, where this person's home is. Okay, so I have a GPS for the home, and then I have a GPS for the current location, and also I have a time since when that you're in that location. So let me just tell you that we can actually model the person for a variety of things, but here I'm actually modeling saying that, okay, I want to know where this person is, and I want to know where the person's home is and where he is currently at. I mean, you can think about this will be more complicated. If I actually have a sequence of this location and since when, and essentially I am tracking this person about your footprint. Okay, for example, I want to keep the information myself about where I have been today, so I kind of know how many steps I take and to do some exercise. Yes?
Just a reference to the syntax. So on this code, we're using both the camel case and the snake case. Is there significance to that, or just the style of the code? So since underscore when, that's a snake case, but then we have other variables which you
right. That's a good point. That's a good catch, by the way. So I want to tell you that my convention. This is everybody have their own convention. I do have a convention that built in, but I realized when you said something, I realized I made a mistake. So in my convention, this is coding convention. So this coding convention is also help people to understand your code. So anything to do with a class, the class name, I always use a first letter capital, unless it's abbreviation. So that's why I have a GPSDD. I have JB time. This is the class name, right? The class name is actually JSON value time. And you haven't got to JSON part, just JD type. But usually the attribute, I actually just use a lowercase.
Yeah, but I think the default convention for C++ is the camel case, which is the first is lowercase, but the second word should be.
Yeah, that could be another way to that. That's a convention. That's actually probably more popular convention. But when I develop, that's just my personal convention. Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, so I've seen you code in your code, you never use namespace. Is it because it's just more efficient to use the cd right away without loading the library?
I actually did use
the namespace std and then just full string without the std.
Yeah, I should use namespace.
Okay.
I should use namespace std, but even with namespace, this is a bit controversial, but I just want to tell you my opinion. Even I use namespace, I typically still add the prefix. I use them, but I know it's caused problem because for std it's actually usually I won't confuse because it's CI and line, they're the same. But for other thing, if I say namespace JSON, then I sometimes might confuse one is the other. Yeah, so that's why I always say, well, what's the problem of adding a few things, adding a few characters like std? It's just helping people to be very explicit. Yeah, it's just a because after compiler optimization, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it will get converted. Yeah, okay, but excellent point. All right, any other question? All right, so do you see that I have a 5, but the first 3 is kind of static. The first 3 is static because it basically describes who you are and how to contact you. All right, so it's your address and your name and your SSN. And then the last 2 is more dynamic because I want to have a way to track where I am. And this one, I simplify. In this example, only one location was recorded, meaning that starting when did you actually present in that location. So that's basically 5 attributes. And then I have a bunch of public, which is the method. Okay, so of course, I have a constructor, the first 2 lines, that's line 20 and 21. Those are 2 constructor, which just help me to set a person. And then I have a 2 method, which is help me to set my home address and set my location. Okay, I can set my address, I set my current location, and I have a bunch of function over here. I say I can get my SSN, get the name, get home, get location, and get location time. So because I have those attributes. Yes, please. Yeah, I can probably do the explicit. I was just forgot to say is explicit in this case. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good habit to actually try to force it to be explicit to make sure people are not try to do this kind of implicit conversion. Okay. And the thing is there are 2 things, which is a new probably to you. The first one you see that is a line 25. It's called Boolean, and then this is called operator equal. Okay, this is called operator overloading, which is the main topic of chapter 12. So I just leave this line here to kind of provide us the bridge when we actually going to go into chapter 12, which is actually very quickly, hopefully next lecture. So we are not going to worry about this line 25 right now. But I also have line 31 is a dump. So I also have a dump, just like exactly the same reason I want to dump for GPS. I have a dump for a person. I want to know the person. For example, I want to dump every attribute about the person. I mean, if actually privacy is not a problem, I mean, when you look at my code, immediately, if you're sensitive to those kind of ethical issue, you realize there is a lot of potential privacy concern. And by the way, in a lot of big company when they are actually collecting the data, this is essentially all the data they have about you as well. Okay, so it's a good thing that you see that we're modeling something powerful, but just as a student, we also to look at this issue, we should also think about what is the data could potentially be misused. Okay, so that's the second class I want to. So I actually define a class called person. By the way, the class person can make it a lot more complicated, right? A person has more than the name and SSN, and more than just single location. A person has their friends, has their relatives, and the person has his occupation, and the person has his banking account, and the person has some kind of physical condition, a health record. You can actually see that this simple concept person can be extended to include a really complicated attribute that related to the person. At that time, it's very interesting when you do a dump. I want to say dump the health record of my past 5 years. I want to see whether I'm healthy to qualify some kind of cheaper insurance, health insurance, for example. So object-oriented is kind of, I give you a taste, which is very simple, but it has a great potential. And I want to actually tell you two things to kind of motivate you a little bit. When we actually get into chapter 13 and 14, you will learn a lot of language construct for you to make a existing class extensible. So meaning that we can actually build something very simple at the beginning, but it allows us to very easily extend it to actually build a more complicated stuff. And that's actually the power of object-oriented to help us to deal with a large scale or complicated stuff. And the other thing I do want to say that this is another side of coin. Because I have that capability to do extensibility very easily, listen to me here, is that when I try to use object-oriented paradigm to solve a problem, I can actually neglect all the things I don't need at the moment. That's actually important. Sometimes you write a program, you write a person.h, and you try to think about every aspect about the person. You try to make the initial design so complicated. That's usually not necessarily a productive way to deal with problems. What we want to do is we look at the most important feature that is needed next 24 hours. I want to solve this problem. I only want to include this. I make it work. And later, if I actually has other need, I can extend. Okay, so that's the power of object-oriented. It allows you to extend, but the thing is that your code can work with very small amount, with only those attributes that you can right now. Okay. Okay, let's actually take a look very quickly about this object called person. So the person is an object, but it's a composite object because inside person, it includes different components. You see that include a bunch of names, they include other objects, it include at least two different kind of object. One is GPS location, which we learned on Monday, but the other one is JV time, which is the time package that I actually put together. So let me actually show you. This is actually the JV time class I actually developed myself when I taught ecs36b the first time during pandemic. And let me just show you. It's very simple. I just want to have a package, be able to manage the time very easily. So the thing is that you need to look at this. It includes a lot of C++ standard library, which is chapter 17, has a good list of all the standard library. But the thing is that typically for the programmer, we just basically include all of them, and not all of them, but include those probably work, and your compiler doesn't complain. Good. Okay. So a lot of programming, we just try to look at other people's code and include a bunch of things. If it's work, good. Okay. Do you want to know more detail? Yes. But sometimes we really just learn a lot from other people's code as well. So that's why I want to emphasize readability is very important, not just for other, for yourself as well. All right, so now I actually have something called JV time I developed, and JV time is has a Boolean. Say you basically just want to check whether that time is actually a valid time or not. But then the rest of the time is just 6 integer, year, month, date, hour, minute, and second. And there is something called tail 4. So this is actually a standard way of representing time. Let me actually show you. You probably have seen this. I gave one example of this. The code format usually looks like this. You might have seen it. The code format usually looks like this. This is the format of the standard time. So the first 4 digits represent year. And then with a hyphen, with next 2 digits represent months. Another hyphen, 2 digits represent day. And then there's a time, it's hour, minutes, and second, and plus 4 number, which is extra number that you can actually encode the other kind of information in there. So that is actually, for example, your time zone information can be encoded there as well. All right, so that is basically the standard way of handling time. And essentially, this is a library. You don't have to understand everything, but it's good for you to actually see how a code can be written and can use to handle time easily. It basically provides you a bunch of member function, besides constructor, that you can actually be able to convert the time string from that standard format to the those 6 attributes. So there is information processing. We always try to convert different format from one way to the other. Okay, so that is just. Oh, thank you. That wouldn't be very desirable. Thank you, appreciate that. And the people watch YouTube video at this time, they will say the same thing, right? They watch this, oh, your battery is going to die, but doesn't matter, it's already passed. Whoops. Okay. All right, so that is a JV type, but the thing is that I want to just introduce, the reason I want to talk about this is that I actually have one function that I included. You can actually take a look at the code. How do I actually obtain time? So there is one function. This is not a member function, but it's related to this JV time concept called get JV time now. Get now JV time, meaning that I want to actually find out, I'm here in TLC. I want to actually say, when did I come here for TLC? So I actually just call get JV time. So it will go to the system to pull out the time that the computer record, and then they will actually return me a JV time object. So I can actually use it together with the GPS location to know where I am. So let me actually show you how I actually really use this. So you have to go to, let's go to the test program, which is called test_thing_person.cpp. Okay, so this is the code that start using that. I haven't tell you anything about thing, all right? Thing, and because if you can model person, and you can model something called thing. A thing could be an object, a thing could be a concept. If you can model this too, you can see you can solve a lot of interesting applications. Just worry about thing and the person and location and time. That's pretty much universally that is necessary for we to handle any kind of issue. All right, so let's actually look at this test program. What I did is I actually started getting more accurate GPS location. The first one, I'm actually getting my home address. My home address is in Woodland, and that's the home address. And then this address here is TLC. That's the GPS location for TLC. This is the building. And so I basically just create two GPS objects. And then I create a person called Felix. And I use the first constructor with three arguments. The first one is my social security number. Yeah, this is really my social security number, okay? You can, I mean, if you use a social security number of me, you can open an account, you can actually get all my money, that's no problem. Okay, okay, that's my social security number. And then this is my name, all right? This is my name, and then this is my address, my home address, all right? Yeah, you want to come to visit me for office hour anytime, 24/7, just go there, okay? Anybody want to guess where that is?
A lake
What?
in the middle of a lake.
No, it's
Woodland.
not in the middle. It's in Woodland, yeah, in Woodland. Where in Woodland? You can enter it if you want. Go to the GitHub and then enter that. You will actually realize where that is. I always say that's almost like my home because my wife like to go there so much. So I usually just stay in the car charging my battery, and that's why. Costco. Yeah. That's between Costco and the Target. Okay, by the way, if you have any questions, desperate, go to Costco and Target, go to the charging. 40% of probability I will be there, all right?
40%.
No, I'm just kidding, okay. I mean, if that social security number is correct, that's about the probability I'll be there. All right. Anyway, that I actually create a person, right? I create a person called Felix, and it has this attribute initialized. And then I actually want to buy something. Okay, now it's interesting. I want to buy something from IKEA in Sacramento. And of course, I create an object. Okay, this GPS location is correct. Okay, everything else is correct except my home. That's actually Costco. So I actually create IKEA. And now you can see I'm using that. But the important thing is about, wait a minute, where's my location? You see here, I actually set my location. This is, I said, Felix, okay, this line. Let me make it bigger. I said, Felix, that's the object. And I call the member function called set location. And the set location, take a two argument, if you still remember, go to the set location under person.h. The first is the location I'm actually going to be, and the second is since when, is when I started to be in that location. We're talking about the simple case here. So how do I actually get my time? To get my time is I just call the function I just show you called get now, JV time. So this function is going to go to the system to pull out the time and then just return, so I can actually easily implement this function set location. Okay, so I'm just telling you, you see, we have three classes actually. Person class. The person class include the GPS class. In fact, I use it twice, one for home, one for location, and also the time as an object, because I want to know when I actually came here in this class, TLC, teaching complex. And that's how we do that. You see that there's not too many lines of code, and I can actually represent a fairly interesting concept. Yes, please. Yeah, the star. Okay. There it's historically I tried to change it, but let me actually tell you why. Because what I did when I implemented this code, I was still very evil at that time. All right, so I like to use pointer. By the way, anybody who, whenever they can use other things, they want to use a C pointer, that person is malicious. Okay, so I was not a good person. That's why they assigned me to teach ethics. Okay, because they think I need to learn a lot of subject. Okay, anyway, so let me show you the code. The code looks like this. at the end, wait a minute, where's the function? Oh, at the beginning, sorry, not at the end. Yeah, here's a function. You see that this is a get now time. For some reason, when I actually designed to be returned a pointer to a JV time object instead of getting just an object. Okay, let me actually just tell you that this is a curse as a C programmer. C programmer always worry about memory leak. Memory leak means that because as a Java programmer or Python programmer, there's something called garbage collection automatically. So the programmer doesn't have to worry about there's some object, I don't need to use it, the memory can be automatically recycled back for other to use. C programmer, as well as C++ programmer, we don't have that privilege. So we can access the memory address, means that we have to manage the memory. And therefore, I always worry that I use too much memory, or I have to keep tracking where's the copy I didn't free. So that's why I use a lot of pointer to just make sure that, but that's not a good excuse. Just let you know that's the curse of C programmer. Okay, so you can see that this piece of code, you can see that here I'm actually using new. New, by the way, is a dynamic way of constructing an object. Right? New is, I won't actually tell you new until much later after I present the pointer stuff. But right now, just let you know, new is another way, but it's like a malloc. It's a malloc for C++ object. So after I do a new called JVT pointer, I return this pointer. That's why it's actually a pointer. Because the pointer, I have to add a star to reference to the content. All right. Excellent question. Okay, so let me actually go back. I was in this test program here. Okay, so now you see that I have Felix set location. And then what I did next is that I actually do a Felix stuff. I basically look at whatever is in the Felix. And okay, so any question? I haven't talked a thing, but I want to make sure you understand person. Yes, go ahead.
So you have a set location method because it's dynamic, right? You're going to be, your intention is to change it every time someone moves.
Right.
So you're not going to include it in the initial person Felix constructor, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What about, I did see in the person.h there's a set home.
Mm-hmm.
But since you're only gonna have home, like, you're only really gonna enter it once, why not include it as a fourth argument in the constructor next to your GPS home one time?
What if you move and it's done big?
Yeah, I mean that is a good point. I have to say when I designed this one, just be honest with you, I'm actually doing something I call in the layman language called quick and dirty. Okay, it's quick and dirty, or sometimes we call prototype. So there are two styles of software development. One is very rigorous. They actually from design, they know precisely what they want in the attribute, and usually they go over with code review. If I want to design an airplane for Boeing, I would need to take that approach. Because anything that I forgot to consider is going to have a huge negative consequence. Okay, that's actually for the a really mature, really understandable project. But there's other type of project I usually use the term, technically called fast prototyping, meaning that I'm not sure what I need, I'm not sure what I want, but I want to very quickly construct a prototype. So I can actually know what looks like, so I can actually present to the market. By the way, when you use software and usually even from big companies, sometimes we have that experience. That's the result of fast prototyping. Okay, so having said that, you're right. That cell location, why don't I do this? Why don't I do that? I didn't, because I just say, okay, let's have this, roughly it will work. I mean, my goal is as long as I can demonstrate to ecs36b people, and then there's a one student, don't ask that kind of question, I'm okay. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I like your question. All right. Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of going back to the function you were talking about earlier.
Uh-huh.
When you return a pointer from a function, I remember like in 36a, you have problems sometimes where because that variable was declared
Right.
inside the scope of a function,
Right.
the pointer becomes like invalid once that function's done running.
Oh, no. That's let me clarify that. Thank you. Let me actually clarify this. Let me just tell you what's happening here. So we'll talk about this function. You see, I do a new here, right? And then I actually return, and then this function is done, right? So your question is that once I exit the function, whether that memory is still there, whether that data is become invalid, right? That's your question. Excellent question. So let me actually tell you there's a difference here. Is that in the only C programmer need to worry about this, by the way. There are two areas in our memory that are managed by operating system. One is called stack, one is called heap. There's two regions. So when you actually call a function, function A calls function B calls function C, A, B, C, those on the stack. On the stack because local variable, like if you have a declare any variable, it's on the stack. When you pop the stack, that memory is gone, is reused. That's why you see that invalid. But malloc or new is different. When malloc and new are being called, they're actually allocating memory from the heap. It's a different region, so that heap won't go away.
Unless you delete it.
Unless you delete all three. So it's actually different. That's called dynamic memory management. That's why that code is okay, but I need to worry about how to free. Okay. Okay. All right. I need to be quick. Just 3 minutes. I want to ask you a question and for you to start think about this. So I have the end of the code. I have this thing called dump, a person dump. So now I actually want to go to the code for person dump. It's at the end. You see that I have this piece of code, dump. So very similar to the GPS location. And it has a beginning called dump begin. It has an end called dump end. In the middle, I only have a name and SSN, name and the social security. But remember, person.h has other attributes like my home, my location, and since when, right? I have a 1 timestamp and 2 GPS location, which I didn't include here. How do I actually add those things here? My test for you, this is for Monday, the weekend. I want to ruin your weekend, so think about this. Go to the code and provide me some valid answer to help me. I mean, right now I only have this 2 line. I need to add more line. I need to add, say, how do I actually get the GPS location?
From the okay, we would call the object that holds the GPS object, and we would provide it the dot, so the access to its variables. So we call the object this object, and then any of its variables could be latitude, longitude. So we get the address of the address is an object from another class. So
right.
We call the object, and then we call any function in that class.
Okay, that's good. But I want to show you a easy way. This is actually a recursive way to do this. Hold on 1 second. Give me 30 seconds before I get this. You can do this yourself, download the code from GitHub. But here is what I'm going to tell you is go to the dump. Over here, I'm actually going to do this. Number 1, I'm going to say, this is home, right? So I'm going to say home is equal. And then I'm actually going to not to put anything, just the end line. And then I'm going to say this to the home. And then dot dump. Does that make sense? So the code, the design is actually fairly nice, it's recursive. You will see that you need to think about an object contain an object, but you want to have a homogeneous way of collecting information. Don't worry, just because we have done, that's why we want to have done everywhere in a universal interface. When you have this kind of object, I just call this home dump. The same way I can call JV type dump. I can call another one for location dump as well. This will enable us to be able to do a lot of things. Okay, you all have a good weekend, and we're making good progress. And thank you for all your questions. I will continue this on Monday. By the way, is any one of the TA here? Rajesh, are you here? All right.
Thank you, Professor.
You're welcome.